Hey guys, welcome to another episode of El Jefe's Shop Shop. This week I just finished filming the episode and all I did was punch on with the Camry. So it's a new day in the shed, new episode. I've also thrown the hot side on, so a mate came over, Dale, thanks for that. Thanks for the hand. So we got the manifold with the wastegate on, got all that mounted and sealed, so it was quite a pain in the bum. We tried to put it all together in one piece and it was quite painful. It was also 38 degrees, which didn't help. So I've come back out today and given it another tweak, so I just sort of loosened all the clamps and let it settle and reclamped everything, and it seems to be fine. So I've got the oil feed for the turbo hooked back up. I need to orient the compressor housing, but I can't do that until the intercooler pipe's in, and I can't do that till the wiring's done. So, onto the wiring. I need to move all of this to somewhere neat and tidy, and I also need to mount the fuel pressure regulator somewhere neat and tidy. So I think what I'm going to have to do is unpeel all of this tape and conduit, and then move as much of this as I can and just make it all out of the way. So the heater is currently disconnected on both ends because the other side is incredibly close to that compressor housing. Now it actually does fit in there and doesn't touch. I just realized I can bend the heater side a little bit, so I can do that and it doesn't touch. And then down here, it doesn't touch on either of the pipes either. So I could reinstall that as it was, but I think I'll get some heat shield like sleeve, because I don't want to have an issue with that and lose all the coolant at some point because it melted through a line. So that's going to be a future problem because I don't have the stuff to do that right now. I've added in the low pressure line for the air conditioning. So that's hooked up, all new seals and new seals up the back here. So I need to run the high pressure line, which will come out of there and go to the front and mount the dryer down here. So I need to do that. I need to fix this fuel system. So there's a bunch of little bits and pieces to do. And then there'll be wiring and mounting intercooler pipes. So the intercooler pipes should fit in this setup, but they're on top, so it is quite inconvenient to work on the wiring, so they're out for now. And then the intake itself with the filter on it needs to get mounted now that everything is going to be in place. Mostly the wastegate, I was waiting for that to be in place before I mounted the intake because I wasn't sure if it was going to be a pain and in the way. So for right this second, I'm just going to keep tinkering and see how far I can get. Might just start peeling the conduit off this wiring and see if we can get something neat happening. So naturally I said I was going to do wiring. I'll put all the pipes back in. So I did pull apart some of the wiring and got it all kind of loose and slack. So I've moved what I need to move, and then I need to mount this somewhere. But there's also the addition of the new ECU that's coming. What of those sensors and stuff do I need? Which ones need to move anyway, so there's no point doing much with the wiring right this second. So I'll chuck the intercooler pipes in, then started shortening down the silicon joiner for the actual intake itself, and then I need to put the bracket on the front of this, but that actually clears everything and hangs off of the body, so that's pretty good. Just need to find that bracket that I put somewhere very special and safe. And then still need to do the heater lines. I need to come up with a plan for that, and then it's basically wiring, because everything, not everything, but 90% of it is all in there. I need to do some bit of plumbing and a bit of like wastegate management and stuff like that, mount the fuel reg, just a few things like that. So it's all little jobs, but it is all coming together. Got the top two hose clamps on now, and a new one for the throttle body, which is just small enough, so probably should have got the size in between. I might order them and get them on the way anyway, just in case. So all of that works out pretty well. Still need to mount this guy, but Tim has the TIG at the moment, so I will do that when it gets back. I needed to work out what size heater lines I need so that I can order those and get that side of the things underway. We are hitting the tap very slightly, but there is enough room to bend that out of the way. So when this comes apart again to do the heater hoses and the wiring, I'll move that heater line, that heater tap out of the way. That's pretty much all I can do right this second. So I received the welder back today. So the bracket down the bottom, I've just painted that and I've just welded this tab onto the intake. needs a bit of cleaning up and stuff. And I also want to cut this back because the filter actually sits a lot further forwards than I was expecting. So I can cut it back probably 2 inches, get it back there, and then it'll fit nicely. So everything seems to be fitting really well. The exhaust is giving me troubles again. So it was fitting perfect yesterday, I came out here today, and it's touching everything. So gonna have to fiddle with that again, but nothing I can really show on camera. So the next step is to mount all the AC stuff, the fuel system, and then tidy up the wiring. So I'm working night shift this week, so I've got about 2 hours every day to try and get something done. And I'd like to try and get this video out on Sunday, so it's currently Tuesday, so I've got a few days, but I will be working nights, so I don't have a lot of time. So I just received the new clamps for the intercooler pipes, and they sent me 3-inch ones again. So I've got 2.5, 3-inch, and then I just ordered the 2.75s. I got 3 inches again, so I've asked them to send me another set, the 2.75s, or I've ordered another set, but I rang him and had a whinge. So now I've got a bracket for the AC to weld up. I've got the bracket for the fuel pressure regulator. So I need to make that mount to the chassis rail. So I've got that ready to go. Just need to clean it up and put some bolts in it and stuff. So I'll just get something done before I have to go to work. So it's not super often that I pick the easy way, but I have picked the easy way on this one. So the N2 bolts are on the chassis rail, and they're actually on the wonk a little bit. So the holes are heaps bigger than they need to be. So I've done the same thing for this guy, which goes in the middle. And as you can see there, I can get this pretty much straight, and then this can be on the wonk. Then I can wonk this the other way and get it all straight, because I can't get in there to actually see when this is straight and drill the holes in the right spot. So I'm going to bolt it all up in the car, get this guy nice and level, or pretty close to. I'll bolt it down tight, take it all out, weld it together, and then this can bolt to the chassis rail. So it should be nice and good. So I'll get all that done and I'll get it to the welding stage, and I'll show you guys how it looks. So there I have the bracket welded up. So you can imagine if this one is on the wonk a little bit, this is now straight up and down. So I'll grind up this and make it look nice, and then I'll give it a coat of paint and it'll be good to go. I've also moved on to the aircon bracket. I wonder what this red light means. And it's all welded. I just need to let it cool down a bit, and then I'll grind it smooth, make it look nice, and then possibly weld on some captive nuts, I'm not 100% sure, and then paint that as well. So there we have this bracket ground down for the fuel pressure regulator, and this bracket here for the AC dryer ground down. I can't show you this in the car very well, so this is the AC dryer, and it bolts onto this bracket like that, and then this bracket bolts here and here to the chassis rail. This hole was already here, but I'm just going to leave it. So I'll paint these two brackets, and then this guy can get mounted semi-permanently, because I still need to make the lines, which I've got a plan for that means I can weld them. So that'll happen maybe this week, and then I'll paint this guy and I can mount that. I can start running the fuel lines to the fuel pressure regulator. So I'll paint these guys and then come back tomorrow and put them in. So it's the next day, the paint's nice and dry. So now I'll put the pieces back together and put these in the car. So that's all I've got for tonight, but that's bolted on. Doesn't hit anything when it vibrates. And then we've got the fuel pressure regulator up the back mounted. So I need to get new hose for that. The fittings are on the way. Got a few heater lines on the way. I should have most of tomorrow out here, but I don't know if I'll have the parts. So I'll see what I can get done. So it's another day. I'm off night shift finally, which is good. So I've got a few of the heater hoses here. They're just generic ones. So I've got this number here, which I think is 19mm 90. I think that's all that was pretty much, 16mm 90. Then I've got this one here, which is from a 4-cylinder Commodore, which is hilarious. There's the puck there. And this and that should get me pretty close to most of what I need. There's one more coming tomorrow, so I'll have to wait for that. And some fuel hose tomorrow, and then a few fittings as well, which I probably won't get before this episode. So I should be able to get the heater hoses all done up tomorrow. And then Aiden just stopped past and dropped off a piece of aluminium so I can try and make some sleeves for the aircon. So I mentioned welding this in a previous episode and how I think it's going to close up the gap, so it's not going to work. So what I want to do is put a sleeve over it that's nice and thick so I can weld to the sleeve and then just touch the pipe rather than put all the heat into the pipe. So hopefully keep the center of this free. So I'm going to go make some little sleeves that fit over this nicely, and hopefully I can weld those to this, and if it works, sweet. If it doesn't work, then I've got a good template. So I'm going to go over to the lathe and make those now. So I apologize if I'm not making a lot of sense. I haven't had a lot of sleep. So the idea is I've got this piece of aluminium here, which I'll machine down and turn into a sleeve, something like this. And then the sleeve will go over the top of this air conditioning line and over the join. So this will be on either side of the join, and then I can weld to the nice thick piece and that pipe to hopefully keep it all together, keep it airtight and keep it strong. So I'll make some sleeves out of this aluminium and I'll come back when I've got something useful. So those little adapters have come up on the lathe pretty well. So the idea is I can put the hose halfway in, weld this side, put this hose halfway in and weld this side. I can get a whole bunch of heat into the actual joiner. So I've made 3 of those. I need to weld those together, but it is way too hot out here for that, so I'll do that later. But that's proof of concept, and now I can weld it with a little bit more confidence, and even if they don't work, I have a nice template to take to someone to get made. So that's been a huge pain in the bum. I can see why people don't like welding aluminium now that I've done very thin stuff. So they are welded, so I've got a join here, a join here, and a join here. And then they melted away on me a few times, so this one might be a little bit short now, but we'll see how we go. But that was misery. So worst case is I take this to someone and get one made. At least I've got a nice template. Best case is they actually hold pressure and I can put them in the car. So I'm going to see if they all fit up and then go from there, I guess. If they all fit up, I'm just going to try and get it gassed and hope for the best. But if they then leak, then that's a problem. So this has been quite fiddly, but I've managed to cap this end off, get a Schrader valve on this end, put a bit of pressure in there, and I've found one leak here and one leak on this one. I've marked both of those. And then the other hose, as far as I can tell, I've only got the one joint anyway, but as far as I can tell, it's not leaking. So I will weld up those two, and then I'll try and leak test them again. So I started leak testing these AC lines and had a little pinhole, so I welded that up, tested it again, had a pinhole, and that went on for about 2 hours. So then I absolutely cracked a stinky. So I went to Dale's place and hung out with him for a bit, and we worked on a project that you'll see in a couple of weeks. And then it's now 10:30 at night and I'm back. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight if I can't get this welded up, so I'm going to have to try again. So I've got both of the fittings of one line. They're all ground back straight to the fittings now because I've melted that much. And then I've got a piece of alley line, which is about the same size. So I'm going to weld this to the fittings and just make my own line from scratch, basically, because I melted the previous piece so many times trying to get it to hold fluid. So if it can't hold fluid, it's not going to hold like 200 psi of aircon gas. And I'd like to get this video finished because it's currently Friday night. You guys will see this on Sunday. So if I can't get this done, I'll call it quits, but then I feel like I haven't done anything for the video, so I also have all of the heater lines, so I'll do that tomorrow. And tomorrow is my last chance, and I start work at 1, so I've only got a couple of hours in the morning. Long story short, I've had too much caffeine, and I want this done before I go to bed. It's 1:15 in the morning, so it's taken me forever to weld there, which is not focusing, and there, which is not focusing. But I think I've got it. So that doesn't seem to leak. I've got a bucket of water here. I've been pressure testing it. Doesn't seem to leak. So now I need to test this one. I did before, but it didn't leak, which is more suspicious than it leaking because that was the first one I welded. So I think I'll leave that for tomorrow because I'm absolutely knackered. So I need to pressure test this one, and if this works, then we can put them back in the car. I'm never welding AC lines again. This is misery. So I've come out this morning and I've just re-pressure tested both of the lines. They seem good. I'm not confident, but they don't bubble in water with like 50 pound in them. So I think they're good to go. So I'm going to put them back in the car and then we'll move on to the heater lines, which I have all of the bits for, I think. And then that'll be the end of the episode. So those 4 bolts took me like an hour. So we got one in here, one in there, one in the front, and one up the back. But it all fits. It's a little tight on this front one, which is a pain in the bum, but it all fits. So now I'll just do this heater line real quick and then call it a day because I'm already over it. It's 10:30. So the final heater hose came in. This one's for a Toyota Hilux. There's the part number. So that hose replicates the original Camry one because we can't get the original Camry one, but that's pretty close. We've got the two that I mentioned earlier that need to get cut down. Got some new hose cutters. Let's get to town and get this done. Probably worth noting I also got 19mm and 16mm heater hose in straight so that I can join all this together. I give up for today. Just broke the heater tap. So I've got the heater lines pretty much ready to go. I need to get some heat sleeving and stuff, which is on its way. We get a 90 out of here, and then the heater tap into this Hilux hose, which seems pretty good, into an adapter, some 19 down to here, and then this guy up here, straight out of there, straight into the firewall. I'm over it. That's going to do for this episode. It has fought me every step of the way, but we should have air conditioning. We're like 90% of the way to heater lines and all the coolant lines, so we're pretty much done. A few more little things to tidy up. So this may be the last Camry episode for the year, and then when we come back it'll be finish it off, get it tuned. So we may be able to do that at the end of the year. It's not looking great. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.